Penguin Random House Audio presents The Observable Universe, an Investigation. This is the author, Heather Mccalden. Dead men are heavier than broken hearts. Raymond Chandler, The Big Sleep. Metaphor is halfway between the unintelligible and the commonplace. Aristotle, at least according to the internet. Directions for how to listen. This book is an album about grief. Every fragment is like a track on a record, a picture in a yearbook. They build on top of one another until, at the end, they form an experience. Weightlessness. The precondition for all things that exist in albums is weightlessness. Images and songs have zero mass, stamps are mostly surface area, and autographs seep into their surfaces, becoming indistinguishable from them. The function of albums, long before the advent of photography or recorded sound, was to secure the particles of everyday life that might otherwise slip under the radar, if not captured and pinned down. Letters, old receipts, birth announcements, cookie fortunes, postcards, hair, pressed daffodils, and movie ticket stubs are items that might evaporate if not carved out of space and glued into a new chronology. Albums impose themselves on their contents. There is always a beginning, middle, and end, a first place and a last place, and so the eventual arrangement of information might say more than any one object on its own. Seashell head. I covered one ear with one hand and my forehead with the other, and gently twisted my face down into my clavicles, folding into a seashell. The bartender asked what I was doing. Hiding, I said. You haven't even had a drink yet. This wasn't true exactly. I hadn't had a drink in this bar yet, but I had 5 beers at the art opening and a shot of gin beforehand to get me there. Who are you hiding from? Ghosts? The bartender then extracted his body from the space he was occupying and slunk down the bar, somehow leaving the impression of his outline hanging in the air in front of me as a sort of decoy. From his new location, he then proceeded to slide, on a single fingertip, a menu in my direction, as if I might be leaking something. I'm going to leave you alone now, he said, with all that, swirling his hand in a loose figure of 8 to suggest a host of specters around me. They're not contagious, I said, but maybe what I should have said was, I'm not contagious, except before I had time to correct myself, he was gone, flirting with someone else. I didn't normally run my mouth like this to strangers, or anyone really, but the exhibition had left me with a horrible vacant feeling. It featured a series of black and white portraits of naked men. They were taken with a pinhole camera the artist had placed in her vagina. The less said about this, the better. When the bartender returned, I ordered a double shot of Basil Hayden with a single ice cube. I theatrically raised my drink toward him in a toast, at which point it finally dawned on him I was 3 sheets to the wind. I wasn't just some loon who had accidentally wandered in from the street, but a person genuinely trying to wind the night down after being stuck to a wall somewhere else. He clinked an imaginary glass against my own, and then left me to my thoughts, which were black. The bar was heaving with bodies jutting out at every conceivable angle and voices cascading in thick, jagged murmurs. Despite the noise, I somehow caught a piece of a story being told in the crowd behind me. A woman suffering from intense, undiagnosed leg pain visited a temple in Cambodia for a possible cure. A monk there told me that my heart was too heavy for my legs to support, she said. So he walked me over to a tree and pointed. Leave it here, he said. Bury your heart under the roots. When you go home, it will not be inside you anymore, and after some time, you will forget where you left it. I chugged the rest of my drink, threw on my coat, and shoved my way onto the street. Outside, the London air stung my face, and I clung to that bitter sensation until I lost track of everything else. It was late, I was shivering and drifting like a piece of seaweed through town. The story of the woman and her legs swam in and out of my mind, and I wondered about putting my own heart into the ground when I looked at my feet and noticed they were no longer moving. It was unclear to me how long I had been stationary, but when I came to, I was standing in front of a decrepit phone booth thrown off its axis by a car accident. The red exterior was severely dented and covered in a rich film of dirt. When I opened the door, the inside was full of dried leaves, wadded up McDonald's bags, crisp packets, and cigarette butts. Ads for phone sex hotlines peppered every available surface. The booth seemed to have most recently been used as a urinal, but I walked into it anyway and closed the door behind me. The bronzed faces of Crystal, Violet, Alana, Tiffany with a Y, Tiffany with an I, and Amber Rose staring at me from ceiling to floor. In slow motion, I picked up the receiver and held it a few centimeters away from my ear. I could barely make out a dial tone. It was faint, but it was there. It sounded like a song. LA Marathon photo. My mother, Vivian, ran the LA Marathon sometime between the late 70s and early 80s. The only evidence I have of this is a photograph in a coffee table book celebrating the Los Angeles bicentennial. The dust jacket, glossy and jet black, shows the city skyline piercing the night sky. Inside, postcard-worthy images of Angelino city life, of Olvera Street and the Hollywood Bowl, interrupt thick passages of text glorifying urban planning and architectural feats. At the dead center of the book is the marathon photo. It features a sea of tanned runners, fit and glistening in tangerine light. They wear headbands, wristbands, and tank tops with piping and primary colors. Their numbers billow across their chests, like sails pulling them forward to the finish line. Near the center of all that color and motion is Vivian flashing her megawatt grin directly at the camera. The other faces, absorbed in purpose, look forward or down at their feet, and some blur, appearing in frame only as streaks of motion. Network. Several links form a network, like a tethered bank of office computers hissing and pulsing with electrical static. The computers are joined, linked, but are also tied into a configuration, into a relationship with one another. Link is a verb and a noun, an action and a situation. We might ask how information travels in such a situation. It flows, like blood. It circulates down veins and chambers. It spreads. Los Angeles refraction. Running underneath Los Angeles are several currents of myth. They propel the city forward with the same force as the material ones of traffic and population density. Their motion generates a field of visual distortion, and all the images ever taken of the city rise out of the concrete like heat waves and bleed over rooftop pools and stucco houses, Bel Air mansions and strip mall parking lots, taco trucks and palm fronds, canyon roads and chain link fences, and the consequent haze disorients. It both enthralls and repulses, confusing traditional navigational strategies. Tourists get nervous as hell when they can't locate the geographic center of town. It means they can't traverse it in any normative sense, and so the landscape fails to assemble itself in any familiar manner. Los Angeles is then written off as weird, nightmarish, and impossible. And while it is all of those things, it is
Sample complete. Ready to continue?